All right, everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that might seem basic, but can actually get pretty complex. Shutting down MongoDB.
It's one of those things, you don't think about it much until you do it wrong.
Exactly. And especially if you're dealing with replica sets, there's a lot more going on under the hood than you might realize.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're going to dig into two main methods for shutting down MongoDB the right way. Before we jump into the how, maybe we should start with the why. Like, what's the worst case scenario if I just yank the power cord on my MongoDB server?
Well, think about it like this. You're working on a really important document, tons of changes, and suddenly your computer crashes before you hit save.
Oof, not a good feeling.
Right, all those changes, gone. And that's kind of what can happen with the forced shutdown in MongoDB. You've got all these operations happening, data being written, queries running, all that. And if you just cut the power, those operations might not finish.
So you could end up with a half-baked database.
Pretty much. It can leave your database in an inconsistent state. You could even corrupt your data.
See, this is what I mean. This is why I need you here.
Yeah.
So it's not just about losing data. It's about the data that does survive potentially being all messed up.
Exactly. It's a big mess. And things get even trickier when you're talking about replica sets. Aren't those supposed to be all about redundancy, like extra safety?
That's what I thought.
Well, yes and no. Replica sets are great for redundancy, but a forced shutdown can still throw a wrench in the works. Remember, your primary node is the one handling all the writes. If it goes down without warning, the secondaries might not have all the latest data.
Oh, right, because they're constantly syncing, but it's not instantaneous.
Exactly. So when one of the secondaries gets elected as the new primary, you could end up in a situation where some of your recent changes just disappear.
Goof, gone.
Yep. That's called a rollback, and let me tell you, it's a headache and a half to deal with.
Okay, I'm officially convinced. Graceful shutdowns are important. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Method number one, the db.shutdownServer command. What exactly is happening behind the scenes when we use this?
This is how you directly tell MongoDB, hey, time to wrap things up. And what's really cool is what happens in a replica set. The primary node will actually step down gracefully, letting a secondary take over. And all the nodes, they go into this quiesce period, which basically means they finish up any ongoing operations before shutting down.
So it's like a coordinated dance. Everyone knows their part.
Exactly.
But what if something goes wrong during that handover? Like, what if one of the secondaries isn't ready to become the primary?
Don't worry, MongoDB's got that covered. It won't let the primary step down until it's confident that a secondary is ready to take charge. And even if something unexpected happens, there are mechanisms in place to help the replica set recover and ensure the data stays consistent.
Okay, that's reassuring. So using db.shutdownServer, it's all about precision and control, right?
You got it. It's perfect for planned maintenance when you need to shut down your database at a specific time.
Perfect. Now, let's talk about the more hands-off approach for the automation fans.
Right.
Method number two, using system commands like systemctl stop mongod. This one feels a bit more removed.
It is. This is where you're using your operating system's tools to manage that MongoDB process. Basically, you're sending a signal, it's called sigterm, to MongoDB, and that tells it to shut down gracefully.
So it's like sending a polite request through the proper channels.
Exactly, and here's the key. Even though you're initiating the shutdown externally, MongoDB still goes through all those same internal steps. It makes sure there's a smooth transition, finishes up operations, respects that quiesce period, the whole 9 yards.
So it's less about how you send the shutdown signal and more about MongoDB knowing what to do with it.
Exactly. This is perfect for environments where you've got things automated, relying on scripts and system processes to manage your servers.
Right. Now, we've mentioned this quiesce period a few times. And during our research, we noticed that MongoDB 5.0 actually made some changes to this whole process. What's the deal with that?
Yes. This is where things get even more interesting. MongoDB 5.0 introduced something called durable quiesce. Now, the regular quiesce period was already pretty good, gave the database time to wrap things up. But the problem was, if the primary node crashed during that quiesce period, well, there was still a chance for data loss.
Wait, seriously? So even with a graceful shutdown, things could still go sideways?
It was a tiny window of risk, but it was still there. But with durable quiesce, MongoDB essentially writes a record of that quiesce state to disk.
Like a checkpoint.
Exactly. So even if the primary crashes during the quiesce period, when it comes back up, it knows exactly where it left off and can avoid any data loss.
It's like an extra layer of just in case on top of an already careful process.
Exactly. It's all about minimizing the risk of data loss, no matter what curveballs get thrown your way.
That makes me feel a lot better. So, okay, I'm sold on graceful shutdowns, but how can I be sure that replication has caught up before I shut down the primary node?
Ah, great question. And this is super important because remember, we want to avoid those nasty rollbacks. That's where the rs.print replication info command comes in. It's like taking the pulse of your replica set. It gives you this detailed report on the replication status of each of your secondary nodes. You
So
know,
I can see if they're all up to date with the
oh,
primary.
exactly.
Yeah, so I run this command before I shut down the primary, make sure everything's in sync, and then I'm good to go.
You got it. It's a simple step, but it can save you so much trouble down the line.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've gone from hitting the power button, which is bad, to understanding why graceful shutdowns are so important. We even explored 2 different methods, and it seems like no matter which one you choose, MongoDB has your back.
For sure.
Especially with those enhancements in 5.0, that durable quiesce is pretty slick. But here's a final thought for everyone listening. If we're putting this much thought into shutting things down gracefully, what other database operations might need this same level of careful planning and execution?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. Think about backups, upgrades, even routine maintenance. It's all connected. So there you have it, folks. Another deep dive successfully completed. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next adventure into the world of data. Until then, happy coding.